Donald Trump has promised a great many things when it comes to fixing the United States. But very few of those promises are even comparable to Trump's vow to eliminate federal income taxes inside the United States for all Americans. Yeah, this is going to be massive and will completely reshape the landscape of the US economy as we know it. Just last week, he gave a speech at a Republican conference where he reaffirmed his pledge to eliminate federal income taxes. I'm going to play you a clip of that speech and show you just why Trump is saying this, why this is such a big deal, and what this will mean for America moving forward. So we'll take a look at all of this, but before we do, it takes just 2 seconds. If you're new around here and you enjoy this video, please do consider hitting the like and subscribe button down below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, is it going to happen? Is it really true? Many people are wondering if what President Trump is vowing to do by eliminating federal income taxes in the United States, if it is going to happen, how is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Well, so far as how it's going to happen is concerned, there are a few hurdles he needs to overcome first, and that means working with Congress. Now, President Trump did give a speech recently where he did talk about working with Congress to pass these tax reforms. So let's take a listen and see what he had to say.
I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA.
So, what you heard right there was Donald Trump essentially throwing down the gauntlet to the rest of the world. He's basically saying, you're more than welcome to sell your goods into the United States, but be prepared to pay tariffs if you do. Tariffs being additional taxes to sell your goods into the United States. Now, for companies around the world, obviously that's going to cause a lot of concern, because for many companies and many countries, the United States represents the biggest consumer market in the world. As such, Trump has also said to these companies around the world, you don't have to pay the tariffs on the condition that you set up and invest in the United States economy. So, build your plants in the United States, build your factories in the United States, build your offices in the United States, produce your goods here, and sell them domestically to the people of the United States. That way, you avoid paying the tariffs. Now, why does this relate to Trump's vow to eliminate income tax? Well, he gave a speech at a GOP conference recently, and he outlined the correlation between the two and gave us a little bit of a history lesson too. Take a listen to this.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money.
So you heard it right there. That period on record, where they had tariffs instead of income tax, where the government was collecting tax revenue through tariffs, not at the expense of the American people, was, relatively speaking, the richest period on record for the United States. Now, obviously you have to account for things like inflation and national debt, etc. But let's go ahead and continue listening to what Trump has to say here.
That we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money. And that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
So, right there, instead of collecting tax from the American citizens, we should be collecting tax from the rest of the world. And that also then begs the question, why on earth, if this was the richest period for the United States, relatively speaking, what made them move away from this model? Why did they leave tariffs behind and move towards income tax? But so far as moving forward is concerned, this appears to be what Donald Trump is striving for. Reducing or eliminating the income tax in exchange for increasing tariffs on foreign imports into the United States. Now, whilst I do believe income tax will significantly reduce under the Trump administration, it's very unlikely that it will be completely eliminated. Simply because if the administration were to do that, then the United States would still be facing a huge federal deficit. So they're not exactly in a situation where they can get rid of it completely. There will likely still be a level of federal income tax in place, but just at a lower rate, at a lower level, which is still a big win for Americans. But so far as reducing with a view to eliminating federal income tax is concerned, this could actually work out very well for the American people, simply because it becomes much more appealing for companies to invest in the United States. For example, let's say a company was facing the prospect of high taxes in the United States and decided to relocate overseas to not pay as much taxes. All of a sudden, when they leave, you've taken a significant dent in the US GDP, you've lost a bunch of US jobs, and you've lost a bunch of US exports. The company relocates overseas, they go and hire people from overseas, and they boost another country's GDP. All of a sudden, you eliminate or reduce the taxes, the company then looks at the United States as an appealing proposition, meaning they could then return. As such, you bring back all the jobs that were lost, meaning the job market gets a significant boost. The GDP of the United States increases because you're then exporting more goods from the US economy, and on the whole, economic growth and the pay packets of Americans are much better off, because again, the income tax level has reduced with a view to being eliminated, so everyone in the US is much better off. This could be huge, and the crazy thing is, it's not just income taxes that are being reviewed here. He's also gone on the record calling for tax-free tips, as well as eliminating tax on anyone who works overtime. Now, it is still early days. We're coming up to just over 2 weeks since Donald Trump has been back in the White House. But as I've alluded to in previous videos, 2025 could very well be a year of transformation, because not only does Donald Trump have the White House, he also has the Senate, he also has the House of Representatives. So, if he can get the unity he needs within his party, and actually pass a significant level of tax reforms, again, I don't think he will completely eliminate federal income tax, but he will certainly reduce it by a substantial level. If he can do that, then you will start to see the landscape of the US economy change forever, and it could very well change for the better. But so far as my own prediction is concerned, this is going to be a long-term thing. It's not going to be a quick and easy fix, simply because the United States faces so many problems currently, with regards to the border, foreign policy, the cost of living, inflation, etc. There are so many things that need sorting out. Now, what order they decide to do that in, I have no idea. That remains to be seen. But we will see the change at some point. I just don't believe it will be any point in the near future. This is going to be something that happens in the long term. But Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all for watching. Please do consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed this video. I'll be returning soon in the coming days and weeks with some more content, but until then, see you all later and take care.